Solutions to the Dropout Crisis. Addressing the dropout crisis one strategy at a time. Brought to you by the National Dropout Prevention Center with support from Penn Foster and Catapult Learning and in partnership with Clemson Broadcast Productions. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome once again to Solutions to the Dropout Crisis. This program is brought to you every month by the National Dropout Prevention Center and also in partnership with Clemson TV. And we welcome both of our audiences. And I'm particularly glad there's a good, strong national audience for today's program because this is an issue that's relevant to every community in our country. And I know you're all going to learn a lot today that's very useful. We're also very grateful for our partners in Louisville, Kentucky, KET. And you will soon see the guest that we have today in their studio, Josh Kramer, and so we are appreciative of that partnership as well. This is the June program for Solutions as we end the school year. This is a great topic to end on, family engagement, and we're going to have a really interesting time. We do hope to see you all over the summer as well, but I hope you've had a good school year. Now, I do have with me my colleague from the National Dropout Prevention Center, our Assistant Director, Karen Withington. Welcome again, Karen. It's great to see you. As always.
Thank you, Marty. Glad to be here.
Now, I know there's a lot of things coming up for the National Dropout Prevention Center. And actually, as the school year does wind down, it's good to start planning ahead. Even though you're going to have your feet up for a few months, you'll be raring to go in the fall. And so there's some events that you could kind of really spark you and make you look forward to fall coming. What would they be?
So for those of you planning the fall 2015 plans, we do have two events this fall. The National Dropout Prevention Center is hosting a Diploma Planning Institute that's going to be on the Gulf Coast of Mississippi, September 20th through 23rd, 2015. The Diploma Planning Institute is set up to provide an opportunity for teams from schools to come together and work on their dropout prevention plans. So they have speakers and special guided workshops, and then the teams have time to plan and they can collaborate with other teams and get ideas from others. That's September 20th through 23rd, 2015. Then the next month, October 25th through 28th, the National Dropout Prevention Center Network Conference, which is our largest event of the year, will be in San Antonio, Texas. And that's going to be awesome. It's on the Riverwalk in San Antonio. Lots of wonderful workshops and sessions and keynoters and networking and just all the great things that occur at the network conferences each year. And so we hope people will join us at one or both of those events.
Well, this is really great to hear because there's always something coming down the road for those of you who are just discovering the National Dropout Prevention Network and the National Dropout Prevention Center's work. And so if you missed one, there's another one coming right afterwards, and that's what's so great about it.
And go to our website, dropoutprevention.org, and look under conferences, and you'll find all the information on how to register.
Oh, and you can like us on Facebook.
And like us on Facebook.
Yeah, we do all kinds of things. We do all kinds of things, and one of the favorite things we do every month is a Solutions program, which is professional development. And we recommend that after looking at the program, you look at the resources that are on the website. So it's just not a one-time thing. This could be an ongoing professional development opportunity for you, your school, and your community. And so one of my favorite new things that the National Dropout Prevention Center has added to the website where Solutions is the discussion board. Yeah. I think that's really kind of cool. So we can start weighing in and talking and sharing with each other. That's what's so great about the internet and a network where people connect over commonalities.
And there are actually two ways that we can have a discussion. You can go to the discussion board, which is on the page with the Solutions program. We'll respond back as best we can and continue a conversation. But you can join a bigger conversation through Twitter if you have access to Twitter. Our guest today's center has a Twitter handle at NCFL, And the Dropout Prevention Center has a Twitter handle at NDPCN. And for today's program, we're going to try to use a hashtag FAMENGAGE, FAMENGAGE.
Right, and we have those up there on the screen for you to see, and that's where you can join a national conversation about this particular issue of family engagement. So those are great resources. And then, of course, Josh has also provided us with so much information. He represents, and Karen will be introducing Josh in just 2 seconds or so, but it's the National Center for Family Learning. And they have great resources. I spent hours last night reading reports, looking at fun things to do. It's like, what a great resource this is. And there are some research, it's solid research behind this strategy. And Karen, isn't family engagement one of the top strategies the National Dropout Prevention Center do tell?
Yes, and Josh, once we get you on the screen, Josh, you may not be aware of this, but just last week, the National Dropout Prevention Center, in collaboration with the Center for Educational Partnerships at Old Dominion University, released the findings of the largest meta-analysis that's ever been done with the outcome variable of dropout rate. And we looked at strategies that were used in programs that have been evaluated and rigorously evaluated. And the most effective strategy that, if you have a program, if you want to include different strategies, the most effective one, according to evaluation research, is family engagement.
Well, there you are. I mean, it is a huge one. And the other interesting thing I did read on this website, which I didn't realize until you told me this today, that had come out as numero uno. But the thing is, educators know that parent involvement, family involvement is so important. Didn't know it was number one, but apparently 7 out of 10 educators know it's important, but they find it so challenging, or very challenging, to actually make this happen. And that's why today's program is so important and such a hopeful one, I think, to end the school year on. I'm really excited about that. So we're excited about learning about it. We want to get to that topic of family engagement right now. So Karen, let's welcome Josh Kramer to the studio, and why don't you tell the audience a bit about him. But hey, Josh, it's good to see you.
Our guest today is Dr. Josh. Hi, Josh. Our guest is Dr. Joshua Kramer. He is the Director of Family Engagement at the National Center for Families Learning. His areas of experience include family engagement, family literacy programs, early childhood education, English language learner education, before and after school education, high school reform efforts, school community partnerships, volunteer management, youth mentoring and development, and he's worked on many grants, the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency, DHSS, and in his current role as a director of the National Center for Families Learning, he works with organizations across the nation to improve educational and life outcomes for children and families. And today's program is Family Engagement as a Dropout Prevention Strategy. Our guest is Dr. Josh Kramer, and we welcome you, Josh, and let's get this show started.
All right. Well, thank you, Karen and Marty, for your time. And for those of you tuning in to this, I'm really excited to have a discussion today about, how family engagement, family literacy can be used to prevent dropouts. Everything that we see in the research and what was said at the beginning of the program just further affirms this, says that dropout prevention begins in the home. Dropout prevention begins where families are. And by family, we are talking about a broad definition of family. And so this could include, single-parent households, dual-parent households, caseworkers, grandparents, whoever it is that has really taken on the responsibility to be with the child. That is where dropout prevention begins. And I hope that in our time together, I can share some of the things that the National Center for Families Learning has done over the last 25 years in terms of engaging families. Our work began in Appalachia, here in Kentucky, like I said, 25 years ago, our president and founder, Sharon Darling, immediately saw that if we wanted to really raise the bar for student and adult outcomes, that we had to engage the family together. And that really is the beginning of our journey. We were known as the National Center for Family Literacy for the first 24 years that we were around, and we recently changed to the National Center for Families Learning so that we could broaden the understanding of what we do. Family literacy is very much still a part of it, but we definitely are looking at a broader definition. And with that, Karen, if you can go ahead and run a quick video, that would be great.
Okay.
At the National Center for Families Learning, we believe that learning is an infinite and ongoing exchange among parents, children, educators, and communities. From a conversation around the dinner table to a day in the classroom, we believe the real world is both how and why we learn. NCFL leads a collective of people and programs unified by a single mission: families learning together. We bring the right people to the table: educators, influencers, dreamers, and doers, to create vessels for learning. We are a conduit, a network connecting people who need help. We have technology and program resources. From the cloud to the home, we help children and adults. Family is more than just a part of our name. It's the core of all we do and all we are. Our work with families is made possible by contributions from people like you. Join us at familieslearning.org.
That's great, Josh. It's nice to see the transition from family literacy to family learning. Families learning. I think that's a good. I mean, literacy is still the heart and soul of it, I know, but it certainly broadens it in very meaningful ways, which you will now share.
Absolutely, Marty. What NCFL has done in the video articulated it much better than I could, is we have realized, as many educators and policymakers have, that education happens all day long. And the vast majority of a student's time is spent outside of school. And so we want to, when we talk about family engagement and family literacy, we really combine those ideas into something we now know as family learning. And this idea comes into play all throughout the day. So there's always opportunities to learn. There's opportunities to engage both the child and the adult in learning together. And we know from research that that's the most powerful thing we could do in terms of educating a child. And when we build up a young person through family engagement and community engagement, what we can do is we maximize the opportunity for success. We can increase self-efficacy and academic optimism. And I know I'm speaking to a dropout prevention crowd. You all know that those are very important pieces to stemming the dropout crisis in our nation. I'm going to go into that a little bit more in detail later. But I wanted to set up our discussion by giving you just a little bit larger picture of NCFL. We began in Kentucky, as I said, and if you take a look at the slide that says 54 City Network, it should be on your screen here in just a minute, you will see that we have, through our a program that we call Toyota Family Learning, it's also been known as the Toyota Family Literacy Program. Through the generous support of our funder, we have been able to fund programs across the nation that have really developed a network of individuals and programs who are successfully implementing family literacy and family learning programs. We have provided grant funding in some cases and technical assistance in all cases. And so if you take a look at that, that gives you an idea of our reach in terms of some of our model programs. And in a little bit, we could talk more in depth about those. The next slide shows another network that NCFL works with across the country. This is the Family and Child Education Program, which is active in 43 Native American reservations across the country. And this family literacy program is operated by the Bureau of Indian Education, but NCFL has been providing technical assistance through a federal contract for more than 2 decades now. And we have seen absolutely great results in these different tribal areas. And so those are some additional locations that we've worked in. And together that really forms a massive national network where NCFL has served conservatively more than 1 million families over the last 25 years. We do that through partnerships with organizations like yours and also through direct service providers in both school and community-based settings. And so we really hope that that this information for you is valuable and know that it exists in different contexts. So if you're sitting out there listening and you're thinking, well, is this really appropriate for me? I'm in a community center, or hey, I work in a public school. How does this work? We should have examples on both ends, both on our website and through this discussion today. The next slide introduces something called as our National Literacy Directory. This is provided through a partnership with the Dollar General Literacy Foundation. And this is another online opportunity for you to connect with NCFL and other organizations across the country doing literacy and family literacy work. You can register for free. You can also search by location to see what literacy and family engagement organizations are in your neighborhood. This is a direct resource for families oftentimes. So, individuals will go through the directory to locate services. So please take the time to register. It's totally free. And just finally, the next slide in terms of how we network and communicate across the nation from Louisville, Kentucky. You'll see several different opportunities to join our community. The Families and Learning Now is one conduit, the Line on Family Literacy, and the Hotspot for Families Learning. These are all opportunities for you to link up and gain information about the hottest topics in family engagement and family literacy. You'll also be the first to hear about anything that NCFL or our partners like the National Dropout Prevention Network are up to. So those are ways for you to connect beyond this discussion. We all know that learning happens in an asynchronous fashion, and so you can go back and check out those different connections later. Moving into our more formal discussion, I really wanted to center this on what this is all about. And if you could put up the slide of the young people with the big 2021 behind them. This is a group of individuals from the upper Plain states in a community of about 50,000 people. These youngsters are third graders. We worked with this community to bring in some family engagement and family literacy programming through digital assets and through professional development. And in this community, what it comes down to for these young people who are holding up their iPads with digital books that they read with their parents and their teachers and their volunteers in their school system is they're thinking about the future. And this particular group is thinking about 2021. That's their graduation year. And this is one of the first things we do with children and families when we work with them is we make sure and project the future so that we can maintain a focus on where we're going in terms of college and career readiness. And it's important that we do that with the parents and guardians of these young people, along with the teachers and the children. And we create that culture and the attitude that we're really going somewhere. And so that's kind of how I wanted to start off the more formal part of our presentation.
Well, seeing those iPads, you hear so many school districts are just writing in iPads to get them for their schools. And what a great use for it, because if they can take them home, they don't need to have a whole library of books. I confess, I read a lot of good books on my iPad and enjoy it. And my grandchildren now are doing that as well, or with Kindles. But so many children don't have access to that equipment. Schools are starting to buy these, so this is a good gateway into delivering the kind of activities that you're talking about engaging the families with education.
And it brings in the technology that is so important for young children to start early on that, but they don't always have the resources to do that, and kind of makes that bridge between technology and literacy.
Yeah, I think it does exemplify going from literacy to learning in your new name. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was a great picture, Josh.
Absolutely, and one of the things that's very important when you talk about school systems and community organizations buying technology is that the technology itself may or may not be all that we need. One of the things at NCFL that we always make sure is that people who are using technology are engaging in something that can be done intergenerationally or in the classroom, but that we're not just using it for non-educational purposes.
Right.
At this point, as you well may know, there's a lot of indication, a lot of survey data that shows that low-income and ethnically diverse students have increasing access to technology, and in some cases, it's leveled the playing field when we talk about smartphones. When we work with program staff, sometimes it's the program staff who's more behind in technology than even the vulnerable families that we work with. I'm struck by a situation where I walked into one of our partner organizations in the Bronx where I had heard that they didn't have any technology, yet the families that we were working with who all are in a tough spot in terms of where they need to go to reach their full potential. They all had smartphones sitting on the table in front of them. And so, in fact, what we were talking about was the ability of program staff to adapt to the new environment that a lot of our younger parents and children are growing up with. And so, not everybody has access to technology, but when we do, which we're seeing a lot more often, one of the things that NCFL champions is really providing high-level digital assets, and some of which I'll talk about here, but also the professional development that goes along with those digital assets so that families and educators use them, and they don't just sit in the corner of the classroom, after having spent down a budget.
Well, I think the key thing is the families and the teachers, they need to be engaged as well with the technology, not just give this to little Susie to go off in the corner and do, but it's to do it together. Right. That's the sense I get.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so this is a good transition, if you don't mind, into framing our discussion around our changing environment and economy. And actually, these changes took place. We still call them 21st century skills, but we've now been in the 21st century for 15 years. It's really, we really need to come up with a new name for it. But what we're talking about are different skills today than we needed back in even 1991, when the authors of a book that I really enjoy called 21st Century Skills, written by Trillig and Fidel, they spoke about the importance of switching from really a product-based economy in 1991 to a knowledge-based economy that we live in today. And we've been in that economy for more than 2 decades. In fact, it's going to be coming up on, it's 3 decades now. And what's important, if we look at this list that's on your screen right now, in their book, they talk about a survey that was issued to 400 hiring executives. So these are folks both from blue-collar and white-collar backgrounds, indicating what it is they look for in an employee. So it's no longer just your typical white-collar position hiring that we're talking about. We're talking about both blue-collar and white-collar. And what you'll see is a list that might look a little different than it did in 1991. Employers are looking for oral and written communication skills, critical thinking and problem solving. We're talking about professionalism and work ethic, teamwork and collaboration, working in diverse teams. This is no longer something that is something we should do. This is something that we have to do because of the changing demographics of our society. Applying technology, which is what links our further discussion to the next part of our discussion, and leadership and project management. And so what we're talking about here, if we want our young people and our young parents to be employed or gain additional employment, is that we need to teach a certain set of skill sets that's actually applicable in their lifetime. And so on the next slide, you'll see a list of what a lot of people are considering sort of the main 21st century skills that are necessary for success. And at NCFL, we view this from the family-based perspective. So we're talking both about the parents and the child in order to maximize our impact. This is also reflected on a website called the Partnership for 21st Century Education. They're a nonprofit, actually, with leadership from the authors of the book that I was describing earlier. So these are often known as the Big Five. These are the things that children and families need: communication skills, collaboration skills, critical thinking, creativity and innovation, and problem solving. And do we need reading, writing, and arithmetic to achieve these? Yes, we do. But really, it's above that. It's being able to apply those concepts in situations that don't even exist today. That is the task of the educator. And we believe at NCFL that engaging the entire family in that task will maximize our impact. And with that, we're going to set up what we call, this is something we talk about in our offices, our theory of change. First, let's hear from Dr. Shankoff at Harvard University.
The social challenges that face modern societies, whether it's the ability to work productively, to be a good citizen, stay healthy, have their roots in early health and development. A strong foundation in early childhood results in much better and more effective development later. A weak foundation really puts us behind. The most important thing children need to thrive is to live in an environment of relationships that begins in their family, but also extends out to include adults who aren't family members in child care centers and other programs. What children need is for that entire environment of relationships to be invested in their healthy development. We've shown from decades of testing interventions that we can improve outcomes. But the magnitude of those impacts is not good enough. Science is now available to help us think about what we might do that would have a bigger impact than the best of what we've done before. So we began to ask, what could we be doing differently? What could we do to be smarter? Children who are at the greatest risk for the poorest outcomes in learning and health and behavior are children who experience a pile-up, the cumulative burden of one after another of risk factors. And then the burden is more than any child could be expected to overcome. So we began to focus on the development of the adults. What could we be doing to strengthen the capacity of everyone who interacts with children? This led us to think about the kinds of skills you need to deal with adversity. These skills of focusing attention, planning, monitoring, delaying gratification, being able to solve problems, being able to work in teams, executive function, and self-regulation. They're also the kind of skills you need to create a well-regulated home and school environment in which healthy development and learning can take place. And then brain science started to tell us that differences in those skills start to develop in infancy based on the environment kids live in. So how do those skills get built? Well, if you don't develop them early, how do you develop them later? Actually, you can build them later because the period of flexibility and plasticity for this part of the brain doesn't fully mature until age 25 to 30. And then the light bulb went on. The reason we're not getting a bigger impact is not because we don't know about how to influence development, but because we're giving information and advice to people who we need to do active skill building with. Skill building by coaching, by training, by practice, but we're not doing that. So we now have developed this theory of change that says we need to focus on the development of the adults who are important in kids' lives.
So try this.
How does that work?
That's a new idea. Buen trabajo.
We need to focus on their skills, their needs, in order for them to be better, more effective parents, in order for them to be better prepared to be employable, which would enhance the economic stability of the family, which is also good for children. Second of all, we looked at many people in preschool programs and child care centers. And we said, what are we doing to build those skills in the providers? They need skill building as well. And also the community can help to build and reinforce the capacities that parents need. And the community also includes programs in which the people who work in the programs have sufficient skills. Third of all, what are the major sources of toxic stress in this community, and how can we reduce them? Moving it up to a policy level, how are our policies strengthening communities' abilities to reduce source of toxic stress and caregivers' abilities to provide what kids need? The development of our human capital is our future. The development of a productive workforce is our future. The development of a healthy population is our future. This kind of future orientation is critical for healthy society, it's critical for a thriving business, it's critical for a successful environment of relationships to raise children. It's all about being able to plan for the future, to have a future. And that's why this is so important.
That's such an outstanding video, Josh. I'm so glad you've included that in our program today. And it changes the whole lens, really, that you know, we're so focused on the child or the teacher and the strategies or this or that. But stepping back and seeing the entire context, the environment about where our society, our children grow up in, is huge. And this whole theory of change is fantastic. So I'll stop talking because you got to tell us more.
How do you do it?
Absolutely. Well, we were so excited when we saw that Harvard produced this video in 2013. NCFL had been shining a bright light on dual generation and family literacy programming for about 23, 24 years at that point. And we have solutions that do exactly what that video is talking about. We work on all different levels, from the individual family all the way to the policy level. And what I want to talk about now is our theory of change, which really goes right along with what the video is talking about. We have a project that I mentioned before that is funded by Toyota, which is a great supporter of NCFL over the years. And the Toyota Family Learning Program is really a movement for families across the country to empower themselves and bring themselves to meet their full potential. And what we do through Toyota Family Learning, and these ideas could be carried out in any community with or without grant funding, is really based on what some of the main points in that video. It's not just about school systems, it's not just about community organizations, and it's not just about families. It's about a joint process that involves all three of those things in a way that engages families in sufficient duration and intensity. Now, this is an important topic. Everybody will tell you that's in the education field, do you do family engagement? Well, yeah, we do family engagement. We hang up a flyer and we have an event, and sometimes families come, sometimes they don't. And, we believe that that's really just the beginning of the conversation. We want family engagement and family learning to take place in a way that is very intense and lasts the duration that is necessary to make a difference. And so to really talk about how we do that, the next slide that you're going to see shows the four main pieces of our theory of change. We want to empower parents and guardians through something we call parent time. This is a specific opportunity to build the skills of parents. And so when Dr. Shonkoff is talking about parent skill building, this is what we're talking about. Those of you that come from a high school or secondary perspective that might be on this discussion, know that some of your students are also parents. We have student parents at this point, and so we may be talking about a student parent along with the child that they have that's in a much younger grade or perhaps early childhood. And so that's an important factor to think about. The second piece of our theory of change is we want to empower the whole family to learn together. We call this parent and child together time. The third piece is family mentoring. This is where we connect families to each other to build that valuable social capital that likely those of you who are on this webinar or webcast have access to, because you've probably gone to school or you're in school, you have a job, and you've been able to leverage relationships for economic benefit. And this is really something that we're trying to do with families. And then finally, we engage families in building stronger communities through family service learning. And so if we go to the first illustration that really is focused on parents and guardian empowerment, just real quick, things that we know about that parent who's off in the distance inside that house or that apartment or on the street or wherever they might be, is that the education level of the mother is the most important factor in a student's academic success. This is reiterated every couple of years through gold standard studies, and we've had that happen again in just last year. The education level of the mother is the most important and significant, has the most impact on the education of the child. Dads are important too, and when dads are involved, that's great. We can really maximize the benefit for that young person. But the mother, over time, has disproportionately carried the child education as their responsibility. And again, fathers are important. As a father of a 4-year-old, I don't want us to forget that fathers are very important.
Fathers are important. Yes. And I think the thing is that the education level of the mother or our father is not static, that what you're talking about is changing that. Your theory of change would be changing that level, that would be something that could be beneficial now. We don't have to say, oh, too bad you dropped out when you were 14, that's it. No. Or whatever level you are, or whatever skills you have. So that's the kind of thing you're talking about, isn't it? Helping to develop their capacity.
Yes. So, we move from the idea of, well, my parents just don't know how to engage with their child, or why don't my parents come to PTO meetings? We move to a model where we're really looking at what that parent needs to be successful in terms of their own goals. And as school systems and community organizations, we're providing those tools. And so we're raising the education level of the parents along with the child. When we move to our second step, which I called family empowerment, or something that NCFL for a long time has called parent and child together time, this is where you see the family move out literally into the community, if you look at the picture, and they're beginning to learn together. And so they're having experiences that are deliberately set up for joint learning. This can happen in the classroom, this can happen in the community, this can happen using digital tools that I'll describe later, or other digital educational tools. But the point is that the family learns together, whether on an adventure, whether at the public library, or just out in their community. Things that are accessible to all families, regardless of income or ethnicity, things that are appropriate for those families. When those families learn together, we know from a broad base of research that we see dramatic social emotional benefits. This is where we really begin to reap the benefits of family engagement, is when families learn together. Hence the name that NCFL migrated our name to, National Center for Families Learning. This is where we read books together, where we do service together, where we do those things together that help us get to know our child and our child get to know the parent. The third step in our process, which I described as family mentoring, is also a leadership step. So this is where families become empowered to build deliberate relationships with folks outside of their immediate family, and they move into community relationships that can be leveraged for economic benefit. There's a lot of research behind this. Social capital is something that, like I said, those of us who come to our careers and experience success in life, we know exactly what social capital is, but very rarely do we do things that help families who are in vulnerable situations learn those skills necessary for social capital. Some people have called these soft skills, which also layer themselves up very nicely with college and career readiness skills. Because these, I'm trying to make the case that all these skills are necessary for success in terms of workforce in the 21st century, as well as for student academic achievement. And so that's really what we refer to as family mentoring. And then finally, families building stronger communities together. At NCFL, we have seen great promise in something we call family service learning, which builds on the strength of individual service learning, which has been in our society for quite some time. Many educators are shaking their head, yes, I know what service learning is. But what we have failed, I believe, to do as a field is really engage the whole family in service learning. This is an opportunity for children to see parents serving, for parents to see children serving, and build workforce skills as we serve our community. And we have seen in our 10 Toyota Family Learning sites across the country, and it's detailed in a research brief on our website called the Family Service Learning Brief, where you can see many promising practices coming from this interaction. It's a very deliberate process. It's a 6-step process. It's not just a one-time service event. It's preparing for the event, which builds executive function, self-regulation, and goal-setting skills. It's researching the event, which enables families and children to learn how to use digital tools and their own eyes to research their community. It involves the action of actually doing the service, and then, of course, the learning, which comes by way of reflection. And all of these things are happening by bringing the entire family together. And that is a place where we're seeing great promise at NCFL in terms of building stronger families and stronger communities, is through the idea of family service learning.
Well, I can't say enough to support this whole concept of the families being involved in service learning. Mm-hmm. And it also brings home the point, which I think is so important in this discussion today, that it's not just about this academic engagement of parents in their children's learning. And I think a lot about many of the parents out there who have newly come to America. English is their second language, that the academic support or are just thinking about myself trying to help a child with math. This is a no-win situation for anybody. But there are other very important skills that the parents do need to learn, whether they're native to this country or not, which you're pointing out, and realizing that most of our learning does take place outside school, and it's not just the academic. And these particular skills are going to help parents and children, and the way you learn them is by experience. So what you're promoting here are well thought out experiences that used to be natural probably back in the day, a couple centuries ago, barn raising and all those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. But nowadays we know what the elements are, and they can be carefully crafted in some really enjoyable, fun things for community building, which has that benefit. It's just fantastic to see service learning embedded in this, because
Yeah.
Karen knows me and knows that's dear to my heart.
And I like how, Josh, you mentioned multi-generational approaches to this, and the whole family. And also, Marty, you mentioned that you wouldn't want to look at family capacity in a deficit way, but
Right.
more as an unrealized capacity or unrealized potential. But I wanted to ask you, what are some of the effects or the positive outcomes of really good family engagement?
Absolutely. Well, that is a great transition to our next slide that's entitled Standing on Solid Ground. And this is just a top-level look at the types of research-based benefits we see from effective family engagement. And again, we're talking about of significant duration and intensity. We're not talking about hanging up a flyer to have parents come for a family night. We're talking about things that happen that build adult capacity and child capacity together. We obviously see increased academic achievement. We see improved self-efficacy. Increased attendance is usually the first thing that happens when we have effective family engagement. And so those of you out there that are struggling with attendance issues, we see a lot of increased attendance when we engage families in learning together. And for a detail of that, we have a research report on our website. Actually, we have a few different sources that would show that. We see increased graduation rates. Whenever we're increasing attendance and we're increasing academic achievement and self-efficacy, we see a massive impact on graduation. And this was underscored by this study that I need to check out, Karen, that you cited at the beginning of our discussion today. It seems as though we've reiterated this again. Another key factor for those of us that are concerned about closing the achievement gap, when we look at students of color and low-income students, family engagement is even more important in those families. And this has been established for decades now in the literature. And so we really need to focus on culturally appropriate ways of engaging all families, because our low-income and ethnically diverse families can benefit from this even more. And for teachers that might be thinking, well, what's in it for me? This sounds like a bunch of extra work. Actually, this improves the efficiency of learning in the classroom. When you have the trust of parents and children, it'll make your job easier as a teacher and as an administrator. You won't be handling as many behavior issues, and attendance rates increase. And so, it almost sounds too good to be true. And that's why I would definitely turn to some case studies that NCFL has. If you think about that 54 city network or those 43 tribal areas we work in, we have multiple examples. Three of which are highlighted in a family engagement brief that's also can be downloaded for free on our website. But just to briefly mention, the Toberman Neighborhood Center is a community-based organization working with schools in the San Pedro area of Los Angeles, which is an area that has been plagued by some generational poverty in some cases, and also gang issues. And the Toyota Family Learning Program there has really improved parent self-efficacy. Students are engaging more in school and attendance. They're beginning to believe that they can be academically successful, and they're seeing real ways to apply those learnings in the workplace. And you could read all about the Toberman Neighborhood Center on our website. Also, if you look at places that are a little more rural, Springdale, Arkansas has been a pioneer in family literacy. And they leveraged their engagement of families into a district race to the top of several $1 million. And so the federal government has invested additional funds in Springdale, some of which are going to be spent on this high-impact family engagement where we engage the family and the child together. And so that's a rural and an urban example. We've got more than 50 other examples we could turn to across the nation, and it really does work. And if you have the correct approach and you're really responding to the research that says children and families need to learn together. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, a lot of this, I'm thinking, the attendance thing sort of rang a bell, because we were looking several years ago about elementary, early education, where their children are not attending in high levels, and what happens to those kids down the road is not good. And they're not, at age 7, they're not hanging out at the local whatever. It's a family issue while they're not in school. So if you reverse that trend by engaging the families, they are going to be in school. And I'm excited to see that you've got the evidence to show that this approach will help reduce that absenteeism. Because if you're not in school, you're not going to learn to read or do your math and so forth. So that a lot of what happens is, and it has to happen early because it sets the pattern, and the parents or the families, the caretakers, their feeling of comfort with the school needs to be established. And that's always been a hang-up. And I know those 7 out of 10 educators who find it challenging are confronting that. And by engaging the families in different kinds of ways, the repercussions are they are showing up to the meetings, on the parent-teacher nights. They're coming to find out about their child, and they're making sure their child is in school because they've developed a rapport through other things that aren't so terrifying to them or don't bring back bad memories from their own childhood. And so that's a really key finding, I think, about the attendance issue. I just wanted to kind of reinforce that. All the outcomes are great, though. Yes.
Yes, and one significant point to make, to your point, Marty, is that there's really no such thing as a poor child. There are parents who come from a low-income situation, and so as educators and community groups, when we work on issues of family engagement, we have to think about parents who may be in a tough spot themselves.
Yes.
And so when we begin with parent needs and parent goals, then we start to build trust. And that makes it much easier to carry out our family engagement agenda. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, yes, we do benefit from that as educators, but we have to engage the whole family and build trust. Talking about youngsters, if you want to go down to somebody who may be 7 years old, one of the quickest ways to improve attendance is to start having a parent come to the classroom on a regular basis who's the parent of a child. We have seen in study after study that when we engage in parent and child together time in the classroom, that it improves attendance not just for the child whose parent is with them, but for the other children as well, because they're thinking, oh, look, Miss Suarez is in my classroom today. I better straighten up a little bit and pay attention. This is my friend's mom. And so these are subtle things that don't cost a lot of money, but they really change the culture of how we view family engagement in a school or community organization. Yes, go ahead.
I wanted to ask you if there's some sort of myths about parents that we need to make sure we burst a little bit before we go on. And I know you're going to get to the resources that are just available for our listeners and everything on your website. We definitely don't want to forget that. But I was thinking there would be some wisdom on what families are really like.
Absolutely. I mean, I think sometimes it's so simple that we just take it for granted. But when we work with organizations, sometimes we find things in belief systems that affect family engagement. And so if you take a look at the next slide that's entitled "Do You Believe?", it illustrates the major beliefs that have to be in place in your school or community organization in order to successfully engage parents. First and foremost, all parents, low-income parents, parents who are wealthy, and everybody in between, have dreams for their children and want the best for them. A staff must believe that. Think about that. Your toughest parent, your toughest family, they want what's best for their child. Secondly, all parents have the capacity to support their child's learning. They may not know how to do high school level algebra. I don't know how to do high school level algebra. But what we could do is we could find other ways for them to support the learning of their child through non-traditional methods like family service learning and digital learning, where parents can be supportive. Parents and school staff should be equal partners. Right there is where I see a lot of breakdown in a school system or community organization. They want parents when they want parents. They don't necessarily want to get in the dirty work of helping parents be successful in order to help their children be successful, but we have to be equal partners. Do we listen to what our parents and families say that makes sense in our school system or community organization? That true power sharing is a tough thing for us to recognize. And then finally, the responsibility of building partnerships between school and home rests with school staff. This is the same in community organizations. Our parents are our constituents. Our families are our constituents. The responsibility is with us to engage families. We're lucky when families engage us directly. That's maybe how we think things should be, but the reality is that it's the staff's responsibility to engage children and families. Now, once we enter that relationship, of course, that parent is the first and most important educator of their child or that guardian, and so they need to engage at that point as well. But we have to go over that hump of first extending the engagement and trust necessary to build that relationship. One of the ways that NCFL has developed free resources for sites to begin the family engagement process is through our digital assets. And I know that we're going to be running a little short on time. One of the things that you could do immediately following this webcast is you can go to our website, www.familieslearning.org, and you will find a number of free things that you can use, many of which are directly catered towards engaging children and families together, and many of which are digital. And one of the things we know about digital is in addition to increased consumption among low-income and ethnically diverse populations, digital assets also increase student interest in learning. And so these are great pieces to use. So please check out the Our Solutions section of our website. To bring one of those digital assets, a very powerful asset, to life, I want to talk a little bit about Wonderopolis.org. That is www.wonderopolis.org. Wonderopolis.org has won numerous awards and engages millions of families each year in online learning. Teachers use this in the classroom, community organizations use this in out-of-school time. It generates a wonder of the day. It has the capability to connect to Common Core standards, if those are something that you use in your state. Lots of STEM-based, vetted educational content, and also the ability to read out loud if a young person or an adult has trouble with their own literacy. And so it has many capabilities. That just grazes the surface. One exciting thing that you can do in June of 2015, so as you're watching this webcast, is you can go and check out Camp Wonderopolis, which is part of our Wonderopolis website. This is an asynchronous out-of-school time tool that kicks off on June 15th of 2015. You can register and use this free tool to engage children and families in learning. This is a great opportunity to bridge that summer learning loss. It's also an opportunity to engage in STEM content, and it is totally free. If you want additional support for Wonderopolis.org, we do sell offline kits that go along with the resource, but the online resource is totally free. And so please check out Camp Wonderopolis. You can register on June 15th as either a counselor or a camper, and it's a great way to begin the conversation about engaging the whole family in learning, or by bringing in resources in your community center or school for out-of-school time programming. With that, how are we doing on time, Karen and Marty?
Just keep going, because I think you have one more interesting thing we can introduce our viewers to.
A video, and then we want to do
Renegade Buggies. So we're moving fine. Just keep going,
Okay.
Josh. We'll try not to interrupt you.
All right, no problem. And like I said, going to our website following this, you'll find many other things, tools to use. Another recent free asset that's digital that NCFL has developed in collaboration with the Dollar General Literacy Foundation is Renegade Buggies. This is a free app that builds financial literacy. And so with that, let's just run the video. It's much more interesting than hearing me talk about it.
Hey, you got a lot of fun resources on that website. I think that's a really good one. That's a good one. You can see that this family learning can be fun together in so many different kinds of ways. And this whole topic has been fantastic. And unfortunately, as we move forward in our next slide, we're going to have to move forward to our wrap-up for today. But our moving forward is exactly what it says is we want to go and see how we can take what we've learned today and do better. But Josh, I turn it back to you to kind of give us a summary of what you've been talking about today.
Absolutely. Well, to kind of race to the end of our discussion today, some of this may sound like it's difficult. The first step in understanding true family engagement, engaging families in learning, is that some of the answers are right underneath our nose. We need more and better community partnerships. We need to build this based on parent and family assets as opposed to deficits. You hear a lot of discussion in education about what families aren't doing. We need to focus on what families are doing. We need to share power. We need to use free resources and expertise that exists. NCFL has much of that on our website. You can also find other great resources out there that are really free. And so it comes down to creating a culture and a system in your organization where family becomes the #1 unit of change. If you'd like to contact us, you can go ahead and move to my contact page, which is the final slide today. I would be happy to engage in discussion through email or through our various communication channels about how to engage with NCFL and how together we can engage families in building a stronger community. So thank you so much for your time.
Well, this has been great, and I think that the fact that we saw that map of the network, and I have to tell you, I myself went on your directory to see what was there in my local community, and there's so many organizations. So educators out there, you're not alone. We have to remember that there's a lot of educators out there, and our parents are educators, our family members, our community members, all the everybody's, as I say, all the everybody's. That's what dropout prevention really is about, is building these communities, working together. So teachers, who are often perceived as the educators, have an opportunity to reach out and make their mission in life to help these children more successful by engaging the other people who are part of that. So
and building their capacity.
And building their capacity. That is at the same time. I mean, I talk about the children a lot, but this whole lens about building the capacity of the adults in their lives is a wonderful contribution and broadens our understanding, I think, of why family engagement is important and community engagement as well, frankly. So.
So I encourage participants to contact Josh and find out how their center can help them do that.
That's right.
Really make it happen.
Great resource, and it's been even better than I imagined it would be spending this last hour with you today, Josh. So thank you very much, and thanks also to our friends there at KET for enabling us to see you and converse with you. It's just even though you're in a box, you're with us. It's been great. So, and I hope we'll see you at another conference someday too, because Josh often represents that organization at the National Dropout Prevention Center's events. So someday maybe y'all will get to meet him in person.
And thanks participants for joining us, and let's continue this conversation.
That's right.
Well.
Don't forget our discussion board. So as we close out another happy hour, we certainly encourage all of you to learn more about this theory of change and learn more about family engagement. So any final thoughts, Karen?
Well, invite everybody to come see us in the fall at one of our 2 events or both of our events at the National Dropout Prevention Center. We'd love to have you, and we can build capacity that way as well.
And check out the new meta-analysis report that is on the main page of the National Dropout Prevention Center.
It is. It's a major research report, and you'll find a link to that and a press release and PDF.
Yeah, big time stuff going on always at the National Dropout Prevention Center. But here we close down June, another school year, and although you're going on summer vacation, we hope to kind of connect with you over the summer. We're going to have some special programming this summer that we're working on. So stay tuned to the Solutions website, and you'll see what's coming next. But thanks for joining us today, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.